Hey everybody, it's Chris and Sheldon with a special guest, Alan Goff, and this is the We Buy Businesses podcast. I guess the Process podcast. What episode is this?
I don't even know.
I don't even know.
4, 5, 6.
But it's about take
3.
57.
Yeah.
3.
You got me hypnotized from the power of your kiss. It's okay, it's alright. We can do this all day and all night. Take a first class flight. Bitches know we flying high.
Okay, so like I said, we're here with Alan Goff. He's kind of a big deal. Huh?
Are you talking about my weight gain?
So we've known Alan for quite a long time. We've known each other. We go back quite a while now, right?
We go back a
7,
good long
8,
ways.
9 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And we met at a Toastmasters event.
Of all things.
Of all things.
You walked in.
It was
just off
bad.
the street.
Yeah.
Sat down right beside me, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, at that time too, when I sat down, like I didn't even know how to dress myself. Really, it was like I went in. I had a limited budget to buy a dress shirt, and I bought the cheapest. Like, it was so bad. It reminded me of like
You ever see those shiny silk ones that like Vinny and Guido wear to the wedding? The
yeah, they're like the Hawaiian fabric that are like they blow in the wind real easy and shit. You know, like so I bought that, and I go to Toastmasters. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to speak in public. And of course, then I sit down with the guy who teaches people how to speak in public. So it was kind of the perfect day one at Toastmasters. So from there, I took like a public speaking course that you had, right? And
did it pay off?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, for a few years there in the seminar circuit, you
did real well.
Stage a few times,
you did
right?
real
so,
well.
Not to the extent that you've done, obviously. So,
But it's my profession.
yes,
We have different professions.
yes,
It's all good.
yeah. So on that note, on your profession, like what's your main drive right now? Is it public speaking, corporate training,
Coaching, mostly. So I'll give you a small background. So I came into the speaking industry back in 2006 and promoted myself primarily for the first 4 or 5 years as a keynoter, which was great. I got to fly around. I've been on some pretty big platforms, sharing the stage with some pretty cool names, some celebrities that you would probably recognize. And I would get phone calls from people or emails after the fact and say something like, hey, Al, I saw you speak at this conference or this event that I was at, and I like the take that you have on that subject. It's a little different than most, or the style that you have really resonates well with us. Could you come into our company and train our staff and unpack some of this more with our staff? And I got to be honest with you, back then I was a little bit arrogant and cocky. Now I'm just older. And I would think, I don't want to do that. But I realized if that's where the value was for the client, I may as well go and open up another profit center there. So I began to then not only keynote on platforms, but then go into companies. And I've been everywhere from the ma and pa little startup shop to the mega multinationals. And spending a half a day or a day or 2 days or whatever that is, unpacking some deeper issues with them, usually around the subjects of leadership, teamwork, and results. That's really it for me. And then I got so angst doing that for a while because I realized, I might phone the client back. I might phone you back, Sheldon, and say, hey, Sheldon, it's Al calling. How's it going with you and your team, unpacking all of that stuff that I came and rolled out for you back last quarter? And what do you think the response usually was?
Haven't had a chance to get to it yet, probably. Yeah.
Exactly that.
I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Too busy. We haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
Oh, we and I thought I must really suck as a trainer, and I thought maybe I should just go back to keynoting. But I got some world-class help, and I went back at it, and I realized nothing had changed. Of course, you've got a responsibility to do something with the information that you learn, true? Absolutely. But science and psychology tells us that the way the human mind thinks and behaves, you've got 48 to 72 hours at max to do something with new information that you've obtained, or you're not going to do anything with it. And I thought, how in the world can I help a client implement the information that they've learned? And for me, that's the whole thing right there. It's about implementation. If you don't implement, it's useless. I almost got kicked off a platform one time. I was speaking in a big academia environment, and I said, I'm going to say 2 words of a very popular 3-word phrase. You guys could finish it. And I said, well, you know what? Just yell it out. And I said, knowledge is...
Power.
I said, bullshit.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that, somebody sold you a bad bill of goods. Now, that didn't go over real well in a university, but here's why I say that. You and I, we could read every book ever written. We could go to every library ever built. We could get so full of knowledge, but if we don't actually do something with that, if we don't apply that, it's useless. And I saw that over and over again.
So, well, there
Well,
we
we
go.
can keep
Okay.
going.
Okay, so
We're back.
We're back. We're back live. Does anybody know what the hell I was talking
Fantastic.
about?
So obviously we're still working out the bugs. I'm pretty sure every single episode has had
There's
like technical
problems, yeah.
difficulties. So
Well, that means that's your USP. If we're going to watch you guys on podcasts,
Yeah,
we're
what did we
always gonna
screw
know
up this
something's
week?
gonna screw up.
well, that's half the fun, I think. That's half the value right there. Because at the end of the day, like this whole podcast isn't necessarily about trying to sell a course or a seminar or anything like that. At the end of the day, it's trying to give back, give value, and look. If someone comes up to us and goes, "Oh, I've seen your podcast. I'm looking to sell my business." Well, that's great for us, but typically, I mean, why we do this is because I think it's important for us to be able to give back, and this is probably the simplest means of us to do so. I mean, so it
And you've spent so much money on the high-end stuff. You may as well.
High-end podcasting.
but
equipment, yes.
to defend the time invested to
Yeah.
put this together, us right now, sitting together, I think that's where the value is for us. Like we could be doing other things right now. So so hopefully we give you guys some value. So
Hopefully.
So moving forward, how did I connect you guys? How did you guys meet?
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think I know you. I remember you telling me about meeting Al after the Toastmasters thing, and then I think that was you were putting on the public speaking course, and you did a bunch of other courses right around the same time. I think solid there for about 6 or 8 months, or maybe almost a year. And I think the first
think
one
you're
I
right.
came to was the public speaking one, which rolled into. I can't remember what the other ones were. That was quite a while.
Well, it
ago
goes
now.
back a good number of years.
Yeah,
too,
I'd
so.
say
Yeah.
six.
You're
6-ish
forgiven.
years.
I
Like
don't
yeah.
even
goals,
remember.
goal setting.
Yeah, there was a
stuff.
bunch of
Yeah.
bunch of them, and I got
I've
hooked
seen
into all that stuff.
stick man. I've seen that stick man on the whiteboard probably like 30 plus times, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's useless to you unless you do what?
unless you do,
Unless you implement what you learned from it.
but you know what? I got hooked into that. Not the seminar industry, and going to seminars, but just bettering myself, doing a lot of self-help stuff. And now you were a big part of that because I'd never had done anything like that prior to. So, I mean, that really kind of ignited some
Yeah.
stuff for me back then and, led me to take action on a bunch of stuff that typically I was like everybody else, not taking action on things.
It's one of the things that I've really come to admire about you. Well, actually, the both of you. And I mean, for some time, I don't mean it to sound odd, Sheldon, but you were like one of my groupies. You were on the front row of every
Yeah.
seminar
Yeah.
and every workshop that I had put on there for a good length of time. Always in Keener's row, right up front in the spit zone, with the paper and taking sheets of notes. You've been one of the consistently the most coachable people I've met.
Oh, well, thanks. No, it really got me into the zone in a lot of different areas of life, business. There's so many good things that you can learn when you go to the right places and align with the right people, right? So that was a huge eye-opener for me and has led me down a path which has kind of got me to where we're at today, which is always a learning process, and there's always, ups and downs and stuff like that, but it's
Yeah.
been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the stickman thing, right? I wouldn't be able to cite it word for word 100%, but I do have the core message. And
For the people that are on your podcast, what the hell does a stick man mean?
can I complicate it slightly? Because for me, I have my own context around
Okay.
it. Because for me, what I try and do all the time is realize my own conflicts of interest.
All right.
All the time. Like, why do I say and do the things I say?
I'm always impressed when a student takes something I've taught them, and more often than not, it makes it easier for themselves and does something with it. I don't know if I've ever met somebody that actually takes something they've learned from me and then complicates it.
Yeah, that's what I try and do.
But if it works for you, then I'm impressed.
I'm over analytical.
He's
all
good
the
at
time.
complicating a lot of things.
Man, for real, every time we do projections on any asset, I'm like, oh, here's 12 different fucking scenarios, and and here's 12 things that can happen within these 12 things, and it's mostly unnecessariness, but it does help us make good decisions.
You have to do that.
Yeah, and so with the stickman thing, for me, it was one, realizing my own conflicts of interest, and two, when I am,
It was going to cut off
oh,
again.
Look at that.
High tech, folks.
When I see an opportunity and I'm a little nervous about it, maybe I'm a little fearful, I'm not feeling right, I always have to take a step back and make sure I'm making the decisions based on a fundamental basis, not an emotional one, right? Sometimes that fear does come in handy from time to time, but I don't want to be that guy that has regrets,
Right. So can I give your listeners a little context about what you're
Yeah.
still talking about with this stickman thing?
Yeah.
So really, in essence, all that means, minus the whole diagram, is we understand that it gives us a picture of how we think and behave. So thoughts and ideas come into us through our conscious thinking, true? And it doesn't matter if you read something in the newspaper, you see something online, you hear something maybe in passing in conversation on the radio, doesn't matter what that is, ideas and concepts and philosophies and paradigms come into your thinking. And based on what you accept into your thinking, yeah, that's true, I like that. Or just because something's coming in through repetition, right? You've heard that phrase, repetition is the mother of all learning. So anything that we accept into our thinking or is coming in through repetition will eventually move into our subconscious thinking. That's where your belief system resides. That's where your self-worth and your self-esteem resides. Have you ever been in one of those situations like I have? Now, I know you're a married guy. I was a married guy. You're not a married guy. Married guys will really understand this one. You've been in a long-term relationship, though, so you just might get this. You ever have
air quotes.
You ever have a argument with somebody? It's usually the missus or the other half, and you know that you're right. I mean, you know that you're right. You could prove that you're right. You've got all the evidence in the world to know that. But she will what? Argue to the death. The little hairs on her back stand up, and she will argue that you're wrong. Why is that? Because she is emotionally connected. That her belief system is that she's right, even if she's wrong. So when ideas and philosophies come into our thinking and we allow them to move into our subconscious, either through course of time or just something that we accept for ourselves, whether it's right or not, we become emotionally connected to that. And we can only act on the way we feel. Would that be correct to say? Mm-hmm. You think a certain way, therefore you feel a certain way. You become you get a hold of that as a belief system for yourself. Because you're now emotionally connected to that idea, you begin to act in that way. So you think a certain way, you feel a certain way, and you act in accordance to how you feel about any subject on the planet. And because you act that certain way, you're going to get like results. If you don't like the results you're getting, you've got to go all the way back and change your thinking on that subject. There's your stickman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm always watching, like, where's my conflicts of interest? Where's my pre-assumptions, right? Sometimes I look at a situation or an asset, or I'm trying to create value for an asset, or even just in my personal life too, right? Maybe the girlfriend's got a good point. I'm always evaluating my own pre-assumptions, right? And I'm always trying to challenge. I'm always trying to go to the opposite direction, and maybe that's where I get over analytical at times, but that's helped me individualistically.
What I may be hearing you say, if I'm correct, is you are maybe on a pursuit to take a lot of emotion out of your context, out of your thinking, so that you're making decisions based on logic and reason and not on emotion.
Yeah. Easier said than done, though.
Well, sometimes, especially when there's big money on the line, or something. I mean, it's tough to, but that's where it's nice, being involved with this bunch of guys where you can kind of actually, we've had that conversation, like, hey, you're too fired up, you're too emotional about this, we need to take a step back and just kind of like lay out all the facts, the 12 different ways and the 12 different ways, and then, kind of make a decision based on that.
Which, by the way, like we have to tone it down pretty much every second conversation, I feel like.
Yeah.
Somebody gets heated, which is, it's cool because, I mean, in our conversations, we're allowed to do that, right? And we can go back to zero, right? Or go, so we're allowed to be frustrated even with each other and then kind of get back to problem solving, right?
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
But people have a hard time doing that by themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys have a great thing because you have each other to do that with. Often people don't have partners in crime, if we want to call it that, to do that. And so they get stuck very quickly, especially on an emotional foundation because they're all alone and they don't have somebody to bring them back that way.
Yeah. Or, your partners could not have the right temperament or the right personality or whatever to, even if you trust
Different
your partner,
context.
that you could have those conversations and come back down on that plane to be able to level out, right? We're lucky in that regard for sure.
Yeah. So moving forward then, you've kind of switched things up a little bit because you've done huge, speaking engagements. You went on a pretty good spiel there, and now your main focus is coaching, right? You're looking for students, or I should say, students are more so looking for you because you really don't have to market.
I don't do anything.
Yeah.
I don't market. I don't promote. I don't sell. I don't advertise. I have a website. I don't think anybody's ever seen it.
It's all pretty much referral based.
Yeah, I get those. When you go on somebody's website, you go on the contact form and you can fill out a little something. I get hieroglyphics from different languages coming through. I don't think any English-speaking person has ever seen my website. But yet my coaching practice is exploding and it's going through the roof better than it ever has. So you're right. I said I started out keynoting, and then from there I started to do corporate training because the client was looking for it. But then I got so frustrated because only 15% of the people that I would go and do corporate training for in their organizations would implement anything, usually only up to maximum of 15%. 15% implementing 15%, that's not a whole lot. And I thought, how do I get you, the business owner, how do I get you, the executive, or whatever level of management, how do I get you, even your frontline people, to implement what we've learned? And that's where coaching came from. Oftentimes, more often than not, the human being, we go to the seminar, we go to the workshop, we watch the podcast, we listen to the audio, we read the book, we dog-ear the pages, we do all kind of things, we get the information, we say, that's the information I need, that's the guy that's going to teach me, that's the information that's going to help me get further, farther, faster. But then when it comes down to Monday morning at 8 a.m. and you're at work and you're in your normal environment, you don't know how to translate that information to practicality. And so you do what? Nothing. Because a confused mind will always do nothing. So then what you thought at one time was going to be an investment of your time and your dollars to invest in it has become a waste of both. You've now expenditured time and money, and what a shame that is. And so that's where coaching came from. Well, I never wanted to get in this business to be a coach. I hated the word coaching. I still hate the word coaching. Everybody and their fucking dog, sorry. Everybody is I'm a life coach. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's nothing worse. I just want
20-year-old life coach.
20-year-old life
throat
coach.
punch. So don't get me started. So I'm sitting in it now. I know that you guys went to a Tony Robbins thing last year, and you're a big fan, and I have nothing against the guy except I hate reading his books because he can say everything he wants to in about a pamphlet. But anyway, so there's this 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. He goes off to Tony Robbins and he spends $5,000, I guess, or whatever it is. Comes back and now he's promoting himself as a life coach. And then he comes to me. I need some help. Why? Well, I get up in the morning. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. So how can you teach other people?
How do you coach when you don't? Anyway.
Yeah, we see that all the time in business and investing. And just to be on the rant, because it's a great segue. What I see a lot of time is and chime in whenever, but a misunderstanding of what an entrepreneur is and what an investor is. They're two very different things, and yet because of the fad and the cultural representation of an entrepreneur, I think a lot of people call themselves that when they what? Like they're not clearly. You know, to me, I see that all the time, a misrepresentation or a misunderstanding of the definition of entrepreneur or investor. I actually consider Sheldon to be the entrepreneur and me the investor, right? I consider, like, if you look at what an entrepreneur does, you know, he provides leadership, right? Maintains management of the asset, right? Like there's
creates the systems. And fine tunes those systems and maximizes efficiencies and processes.
And way better at me than systems. But when I analyze read only statements, it's a completely different ball game, right? And now that's when the investor cap comes on, and I feel that people have a misunderstanding of those two words, you know. And I don't know how to exactly put it on paper, like this is what an entrepreneur is, but I feel a lot of people are coaching in these realms that don't understand, you know, what an entrepreneur should be doing and what an investor should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, and I see it all the time.
Well, lots of them only see the top level, super successful guys. You know what I mean? Like Ty Lopez, Gary Vaynerchuk, all that stuff. And it's easy. I'm going to go start my own business, and then I'm going to be able to, like, you know, drive a Lambo, and, like, you know, we've had those conversations
in the first year.
But what about actually? Yeah, that's right. And you said it today. It takes 20 years to become an overnight success, right? It's the 20 years that, you know, you're grinding it out, not making any money, all that kind of stuff, and all the headaches and the ups and the downs, and almost going bust, I think, for a lot of people. And, you know, that's the stuff nobody sees, that they just see the super successful ones, like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make all this money, but not the
exactly
reality.
Right. So I'm not going to name names, but one of my clients recently, I was working with this client for a good number of months, and this client has 4 different businesses. And is very proud of themselves for having these businesses and has this great vision. And one of the people that this client really looks up to is the Virgin Airlines guy. What's his name? I'm sorry.
Richard Branson.
That's the guy. Just went fart there.
Yeah.
So Richard Branson. Well, he's excellent at, and he has all these businesses and he's making all this money and it's amazing. And if he can do it, I can do it. Okay, but do you think he started out doing umpteen businesses all at the same time? No. He started with one, and he made it better before he made it bigger, and that means he's fine-tuning his processes and his systems, and he's making somebody, and then he puts good people in place to run it so he can then go off and do something else, and he starts number 2. And I see in everyday life so many, I like what you say, well, let's just call them wannabe entrepreneurs, or they call themselves entrepreneurs, and they're out there and they got their hand in so many different pots. And I think, well, you know, I have to have multiple streams of income, and there's a part of that I would fan the flame as well. However, in my line of work, what I see so often is that people fail because they don't focus. Well, I'm gonna do this, and then even before this is making money, they're gonna go start that company, and before that even gets underway, they're gonna go start this business over here.
Yeah, squirrel.
Squirrel. And then they bring in their brother-in-law to run it, and they can't figure out why they're not making any money.
Yeah, I agree.
And to me, that's not entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so many new opportunities to the table today that didn't exist, say, 7-10 years ago. Right? Think about this. There's a dude in Germany on YouTube shooting guys in the head on Call of Duty, a video game, okay, making tens of millions of dollars. That didn't exist.
Okay, I didn't know that.
That didn't exist. But would you call him an entrepreneur?
How do you monetize that?
I wouldn't call him an entrepreneur.
There's a whole realm
there's a whole other realm
that I
now.
have no idea.
Is he an investor? Is he an investor? Does he know how to derive value?
Yeah.
No. But like, so there's all these new channels of how to make money. Right?
Influencers, man, like YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, all these influencing millennials and stuff coming up. I don't get any of that. How do you do it? I have no idea.
It's
but
super cool.
It is very
cool, very trendy, and I don't want to knock it or take anything away from it, but it's not building a business.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not deriving
the
value in
long-term
an asset.
sustainability of these, you know, influencers now. What's it going to be in 5 years, 10 years? I bet
Could
you
be
they'll
better,
all be
could be
broke
worse.
and
Or
then
it
jaded.
Depends where marketing dollars go.
It's true, yeah.
Right? You know, marketing dollars can dry that industry up or improve it.
Well, that'll
more so.
separate. What do you call that? the wheat from the chaff, I guess. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
the influencers that actually are good at business and are good entrepreneurs, they will take that as like a stepping stone to big stuff because their followings
Exactly right.
are massive. But the ones that don't know how and just kind of lucked out joining YouTube at the right time or
Right.
Snapchat at the right time, they're the ones that are going to die off. Right?
I say this all the time. Success is not magical or mystical. It's mathematical. Yes, it's in the numbers, but it's also in systems. Learning what you've done, how to capitalize on that, how to make yourself and your organization, whatever, better before you get bigger. Otherwise, like some of these guys, to them it is magical and mystical, but they can't reproduce that, and there's
Yeah.
no long-term sustainability.
Yeah. No, great point. And I think if you guys are okay with it, we should probably wrap this one up and we'll maybe do one more.
I like
Yeah.
how this makes my voice sound, so we should
Yeah,
do another
radio
one someday.
voice.
Radio voice, check,
Yeah.
1, 2.
I still think it sounds like a DJ from a strip joint.
That's
Yeah.
right. And
So candy.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll wrap this one up and we'll do another one. And
well, this has been
Thanks
great,
for
guys.
tuning
Thanks
in.
for
Yeah,
having
thanks,
me
Al.
on.
Thanks, guys.